Hey guys, in today's video, we're gonna talk about why tilting the shoulders is so important. Obviously not out here by myself today with Mr. Jess Frank. Jess, thanks for having us out.
Eric, thanks for having me on your channel.
Appreciate it. You guys hopefully have seen Jess in our previous videos. Jess has an awesome YouTube channel. We're gonna link that down below. So Jess, let's dig into it. Okay. Shoulder tilt.
Awesome.
So the title of this video is why, right? Tilting the shoulders is so important. We'll focus on the backswing pieces.
Sure.
And let's kind of approach it that like, hey, I'm coming in for a lesson. Right? I'm someone who turns the shoulders too flat during the backswing, and we're just starting the process of, hey, you need to tilt, right? Why is that so important?
Yeah, well, Eric, that's a great question, and I would say the majority of amateur golfers do not tilt their shoulders enough, and that's the key. And then from there, we just have to show them, you know, how to tilt and what's the easiest way to get them into the tilt, because if you don't tilt enough, you can throw your backswing into a lot of different pieces that could get you off your swing right away, and that goes into good quality of strike. That creates, you know, if you're not tilting enough, you're not going to get enough power, and you're also not going to be able to control the direction really well either. So those are three things. Yeah, a couple important things. You know, three fundamentals, very important. But yes, yeah, tilting your shoulders is one of the cornerstones of great golf.
And one of the pieces, I'm gonna take my setup here, Jess, one of the pieces that we talked about last time with tilting, sort of like on the fundamental level, is if, let's say I was gonna look at the face-on camera here, one of the fundamental pieces that we had talked about was how tilting my shoulders or not allows me to strike ball first, ground second.
Sure.
Maybe let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So that what's super important is when you know, and you got to remember it's both shoulders. You know, it's not only the left shoulder down in the backswing, but it's also the right shoulder down in the follow through and the downswing. And so what happens when people do not tilt their shoulders correctly, when golfers don't tilt their shoulders correctly, they have a tendency to move their weight too much to their back foot because they're turning their shoulders too level. And so once they start turning their shoulders too level, then that also moves their head back, and it creates a bottom of the swing that moves back behind the ball.
Way back behind the ball.
Yes, correct.
Fat and thin contact.
Correct.
Not able to hit the ground in front of the ball.
Yeah.
One of the other things when I go back too, if I have this level turn that we were talking about that I think gets missed a little, and I know we see a lot of Cogorno Golf, I'm sure you see a ton, right, of the same thing.
Yeah, every day.
When the shoulders turn too level, if we were to look at like my head, right, and my head being on the wall here to start with, during my backswing, as my shoulders turn too level, my head starts to work off the wall.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And then that starts a chain reaction of my lead shoulder starts to go too internally rotated.
Yep.
There's too much arm rotation, the shaft gets real flat.
And you see that from down the line video, that shaft, I see that shaft position all day long because you cannot get the shaft steep enough on your backswing if you're turning your shoulders too level.
And so many times, and like we're guilty of, we both do a ton of videos, right, on changing things.
Right.
But a lot of the golfers we see, the root of it is the shoulder turn is too flat.
Correct.
And so instead of the shoulders being flat, left shoulder high, arm turn, shaft flat, they would fix all this flat backswing stuff by just getting the shoulder tilt right.
Correct.
So if I were to have my shoulder go more down, right during my backswing, my head stays normal. I mean, look at the difference between where my club is at here. And not that it needs to be here, it can be
somewhere in that zone area.
Yep. If I go from here, and now all I'm gonna do is level out my shoulders.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect description of what goes on,
And so I think a lot of the golfers who are, need to learn how to strike the ground, you know, first.
Strike the ball in the ground, absolutely.
Yeah, ground second.
Yeah.
and a lot of people that I see working on getting rid of this move and doing a lot of stuff to get it steep, which I think is fine, but it's rooted in the shoulder.
Left shoulder going down in the backswing.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, if you look at all the great players tilt. I think we talked about that in the last video. We did it together. The best, if you look at Arnold Palmer, he had the most tilt out of anyone. Yeah. And he was able to tilt his shoulders on the backswing, and he was able to strike that ball pretty solidly, obviously. So it's, just a huge part of what, builds your swing right away. Before you even take the club back, it's like left shoulder down is going to get you into a position that's going to be able to hit the ball a lot more solid.
One of the things you said, I think, and I quote Jess Frank 2021, was that the best golfers tilt the most.
Correct.
Right? Higher handicapper would tilt the least.
Yeah.
One of the other things I want to get in this video, so like, hey, the shoulder tilt, and there's another quote from you.
Yes.
So like, okay, cool. Let's say, hey, I understand I got to tilt my shoulders during the backswing.
Right.
how much do I tilt?
Yeah, great question.
And so let's start with, if you don't mind, the baseline idea, and we can switch spots, you can hop in with
absolutely.
that, is like the replacing the bend.
Yes, yes. So one of the things that that we talked about earlier, and that's something that I really believe in, and it's very simple to understand, and golfers simple to understand. At address, you have so many degrees. Let's call it just 15 degrees of forward bend in address. So really, right now, you're flexed forward to the golf ball. Everybody's kind of bent forward from the hips. Knees are flexed, but you have about 15 degrees of forward bend right here. So what I always tell people is let's replace the forward bend with the side tilt. So all you're doing is replacing your forward bend with your side tilt. Yeah. So it really becomes very easy to understand that, because if I have the club across my shoulders and I tilt forward, you can see is that I'm not over tilted, because that's what I see a lot of. I see a lot of people who come to me, they watch the videos and they say they have, they're doing the tilt, but they're over tilting. They're moving their head, they're moving their upper center too far forward, and that can be just as bad as turning your shoulders flat.
We got a cool drill coming for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I always tell people, let's get in your forward bend. Let's replace the forward bend with the side tilt on the backswing and on the downswing. And when you do that, and why tilt's so important is because it's the inclination to the ground. I mean, that's the ball's on the ground, so you have to tilt. It's just, it's just a fundamental
You're not swinging
golf.
up here.
Exactly. If baseball's up here, golf's on the ground. And that's why people struggle with contact issues all the time, because they're not tilting their shoulders correctly. And you said it, you said talk about head on the wall, the center of your swing turning around your spine. If you're moving your spine to the right, I mean, that's going to be very difficult for you to get back to the ball and hit it solid.
Yeah, it's like, listen, could you make that work? Sure.
Yeah.
But like the odds of consistently doing it, what percentage, et cetera.
Yeah.
So if we could take your setup one more time, Jess,
Sure.
I think working off the idea of replace the amount of forward bend. So if you drew a line kind of down his torso, and then he'd have that amount of tilt during the backswing. One of the things Andy Plummer, said when I was with him last time doing a school was like, I was like, Andy, how much do you tilt, right? At what rate do you tilt, et cetera? Right. And he sort of did the center hub, right, drew the line on the bottom of the neck, and was like, hey, keep that dot in the same spot. Right. Replace your forward bend with the side bend. Correct. Where I'm going with this is one of the questions is always, hey, how does this differ per club?
Right, okay.
So if I had a sand wedge versus a driver, the same thing would be true. You're replacing your forward bend with side bend. Correct. Let's say in 2D, if you're looking at it from down the line, maybe you're turning your shoulders roughly 90 degrees to your back line. Right. But because you're bent over different amounts, that's going to change the amount you tilt. Correct, absolutely. I mean, the driver, you're standing further away from it, you're standing a little bit taller, so you're not going to tilt your shoulders as much as you would with a wedge. It's still 90 to your back line, but your back line's taller. Correct. So that's why I always say replacing your forward bend with side tilt. Yeah, that's good. And that's really, I think that hits home with a lot of people and makes it really simple. And when you show it on video too, and you draw the dots like Andy was talking about, you draw the dot, the upper center dot and the lower center dot, is that when you do that, you'll see is that now you're making a very centered pivot, and that's what tilting also allows you to do, is keep very centered. It also helps you to keep your weight forward, and that allows you to hit the ball in the turf. So it eliminates a lot of issues for golfers. And there's so many, I'm gonna hop back in there, Jess, thank you. There's so many things that come up from it, like we talked about, the head off the wall, the backswing plane. I see all kinds of swing direction issues coming from the tilting issues. So let's say, all right, I got that, I'm supposed to tilt, replace forward bend with side bend. Correct. Which changes per my club I'm hitting. That's gonna help me hit the ball solid. Like I get that, right? Yeah. So like, all right, cool. Now like, how do I know how much I'm supposed to tilt? What am I supposed to feel, et cetera? So one of the drills we wanna do here, and this is one I'm gonna put these sticks in, that I saw from Mark Durland a year ago. This might have been around for 100 years, but I only saw it last year we did it. Yeah, no, this is a terrific drill. And it's so good, Jess, I think in like, I love drills that universally answer questions. So like, how much should I tilt? Right. And let's say they don't have a camera, which we would always suggest like, hey, record your swing. Absolutely. One of the nice things you could do is take 2 alignment rods. You'd put one in behind the ball. And I like it slightly behind the ball here, Jess, from face on, to make sure that the head stays in the circle, full turn, which we'll show in a minute. And you take the second club and you put it across your shoulders. You can take a club or stick. I'll just get rid of this here. So let's say I put this across my shoulders. When I take my normal setup, I want to take this stick and hit about halfway down. Yeah, about the middle of the stick. About the middle. Yep. So when I go back and I do my tilt, I want to get this to hit, let's say roughly halfway down.
Right.
Now, the reason we put it slightly behind it is because if we put it even with the ball, here I can get my head working too far forward, not enough turn.
Correct.
If I put it just behind the ball like that, now I still have full turn, full tilt, full extension.
Yep.
And so let's say, Jess, I'm the golfer who comes in, who turns flat. I'm probably hitting pretty
you're
high.
hitting way too high on the stick.
Hopefully not missing.
No, well, you
could.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be up here.
We've probably seen that before.
Yeah, up
yeah,
high.
yeah. So.
But then I might exaggerate, right?
Right.
I might be like, you might be like, hey, can you go below middle?
Yes.
Like just to exaggerate.
Yeah.
And feel this here.
Yep.
What are some other things, Jess, like things you would feel if someone needed to have more tilt?
Well, I would also, I mean, this is kind of like a bonus for you. I would also talk about the left knee going down as well, because a lot of people do not change their knee flex correctly. So I'll also talk about, okay, not only does your left shoulder go to the ground, but also your left knee goes to the ground, and that would definitely increase your tilt pretty quickly.
Kind of like left knee, like over foot.
Correct, correct. The left knee also goes, goes down over the foot. That will also help increase the tilt, and it'll also help change the flex in the knees, which is a absolute locomotion move in the golf swing that we need to add power.
If I like that.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing this, we said, hey, if I'm recording it, so this is a nice drill.
Yeah.
Okay, about halfway down.
Yep.
If I'm recording it from down the line, I could draw the circle.
Right.
Right. I could keep that there. I could look at my shoulders roughly 90 to my spine line. And I would say universally from face on, same thing. Keep that dot where it is.
Right.
Or keep your head in the circle.
Sure.
Does this mean universal
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
So in terms of practice, maybe I would do, hey, I'm going to do 2 or 3 reps, hit a ball. 2 or 3 reps, hit a ball. 2 or 3 reps, hit a ball.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, and I know I talked about the overdone tilt. That's a rarity when, you know, most people do not tilt enough.
Right.
So the exaggeration of tilting is a good thing right now. If
you want to feel like
if you're struggling with turning your shoulders too level, you want to exaggerate the left shoulder tilting
So
down
I'm feeling
to the
like
ball.
left shoulder down, left knee down.
Pretty solid.
That was very solid for me.
I like it.
So as I would go through, I would probably, you know, do a couple of those reps, see what it feels like. Oh my gosh, my left knee and shoulder feel down compared to normal.
Right.
Hit a couple balls. And then this would be a phase, do you mind grabbing me one more, Jess? This would be a phase where I would want to record it and look at it and confirm like, all right, Eric, you feel like your left shoulder is kissing the ground, but on camera, in fact, it's perfect.
Right.
So at this moment in time, I need to feel like my left shoulder kisses the ground. Do I need to feel like it kisses the ground forever? Probably not.
No.
But I need to be like constantly.
And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I always tell my students, you want to film your range sessions. If you can film your range sessions and you could check that, it's not how many balls you're hitting, but it's the quality of golf balls that you're hitting. So it's something that you want to be able to look at. And that's really solid.
And quality's like
that's launched.
Feedback, right?
Yeah,
like, did I do it right on every single rep?
Absolutely, and it's really great too, because when you start tilting your shoulders, you'll see all the things that you want to happen. Your head staying in the circle, not lifting out of the shot. Most amateurs are pulling their arms and club back, so they're lifting themselves out of their posture, basically, not replacing their forward bend with side tilt.
Yes.
So it's really important because, you know, feeling real, and you know, you have to exaggerate to get where you want to go.
So shoulder tilt, why it's so important, right? Solidness of contact.
Right.
I would say just consistency, like day-to-day golfing, be able to manage all the pieces.
Right.
Makes your life a lot easier. Some checkpoints there to hit. Exaggerate in the beginning if you don't do it enough. Expect for it to not feel like what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
Anticipate that. Use video. We're going to actually put, Jess, at the end of this, we'll put a card on the screen. Jess and I did another video on tilt, backswing and downswing. You'll see that. Jess Frank, thank you, sir.
Eric, this is awesome. Thank you.
Man.
Yep.